Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where vegan plant-based companies connect and collaborate. It's important to honor, acknowledge, and respect that we are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. Today, we're thrilled. We have a special guest with us who is a champion for integrative wellness with over 14 years of experience. She is an author and contributor to many article publications, plus a podcast host herself and sober living advocate. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce the founder of Altavita Medical Wellness Tourism. Welcome, Megan Swan.
Thank you, Justin. It's great to be here.
Megan, tell us a little bit more about why plant-based nutrition is important to you.
Sure. I think it is maybe safe sleep being number one. Number two thing that most people can do to improve their overall health and well-being, certainly their energy, their immunity, their stamina, their focus, concentration. So it's something I'm really passionate about getting all of my clients to do more of and really think from that as their base in everything that they're consuming to be energizing. And yeah, I'm passionate about it on many levels. I'm happy to dive in anywhere there you see fit.
And we understand that is it like a certified plant-based chef or
Yeah, I did that about 10 years ago. It was more, I did include some of that in one of my first books on detoxification, really helping people, the books towards moms wanting to like revitalize their kitchen and bring other healthier options into their household, their kids' lunches. And I felt like I needed that sort of background in order to really create recipes that were, yeah, easy, user-friendly, and really help people understand like what are some easy ways to substitute things in things they really already like to eat, making them plant-based and or vegan.
well, we'll talk a little bit more probably. I think you said your first book or one of your books. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Maybe when we get to like the resources question. You can, of course, talk about the resources that you've created and then others that have helped you along your way. But before we get there, switching gears a little bit, plant-based nutrition is one pillar of sort of your life and your work. But can you tell us and those listening more about your entrepreneurial origin, when it started, how it started, and where you are today?
Sure. So I really started, I joked that yoga was my quote unquote gateway drug into the wellness industry. So I started owning and operating yoga studios. I'm an Ashtanga yogi and did that until I became a mom. And in fact, it was only until I would just close the studio long enough to have a baby. And here in where I was based at the time. I was, the only yoga teacher in my studio, so I had to close in order to give birth. And I would, yeah, I just loved it, but also knew that I was interested in finding something that was in the wellness sphere, but sort of a little bit more multi-layered and multidisciplinary. And I started kind of stacking certifications. So the first I did was to be a health coach through IIN, and then the plant-based chef. I also did a detoxification course with a woman in Spain, and that was my first set of books was that detox designed for moms, a 10-day detox. And from there, I kind of got more into entrepreneurship and also the mindsets piece specifically in like creating all of these things, in a way that, if you wanted to make it, if you wanted to help other people make this a lifestyle, that could be a business. And it kind of built from there. And it really kind of blossomed in 2020. At the time I had, all in-person coaching clients, and I was running a lot of workshops in terms of teaching moms here how to make plant-based and sugar-free and gluten-free lunches and treats for their kids. And yeah, and so in 2020, I lost all my in-person clients and all those sort of in-person activities. And my plan was always to migrate to more of a global clientele so that my business could go with us when we moved to Canada. And 2020 just made that all happen a lot faster. So it was a mixed blessing for me. I really transitioned from working all in Spanish to immediately working pretty much globally in English and having clients in Europe and throughout the US and Canada. And yeah, I mean, I can keep layering it on, but over time, I just kept getting different types of certifications that I thought would be really useful to the types of clients I was working with. 90% of the time I've worked with female entrepreneurs, but I also work with leaders and I do work with some incredible men. It's just really passionate about helping people have the impact that they want to have on the world in a way that's sustainable.
Hmm. You kind of alluded to like an answer in the next question a little bit by where you went and the transition and everything. But if you wouldn't mind, like the question here is where is your brand going in the future? I think it's also going to be helpful to everybody listening to know like what exactly is Altavita all about and where are you now? And then of course, where's your brand going in the future?
Sure. So to kind of tie up that last piece, that was all under my first company that's called Megan Swan Wellness. And I still, serve clients in all those spheres. The new layer that I've added on is a joint project with my husband and partner of 15 years. He is a vascular and general surgeon, and so we've kind of brought, three key pieces of our expertise together. So on my part, it's the holistic lifestyle wellness coaching, and on his part, it is the advanced medical diagnostics, and then the immersive travel in this part of the world that we're very passionate about. We lived here for 15 years, and inadvertently, we've been doing this service for friends and family for about a decade, which is, having them come down, experience the nature, the coffee fincas, the waterfalls, the Mayan ruins, all that has to offer this part of the world. It's really like a hidden gem in, the Mexican repertoire of travel, if you will. And couple that with, travel is a great opportunity it's a catalyst, right? Like it's a great reset. It's a great place for people to really reconsider their lifestyle habits. And we're adding this layer of giving them their personalized data, some medical diagnostic testing like stress tests, CT scan, their full blood panel, all these sorts of things that will empower them to understand where they still have a lot of agency in their life with their current health experience and then, their health span trajectory over time, and help them navigate those changes because sometimes shifting habits can be quite complex when it's very helpful to have the blend of the holistic, but also, okay, here's the data, here's where you really need to focus. And the preventative, proactive piece is another aspect of our passion here, where, medicine 2.0 really is looking at normal in a different range, which is like, it's not necessarily empowering people to be that proactive or encouraging them with these lifestyle habits that it ultimately you can really, really change your experience now and in the future by doing things that are not, in the wheelhouse of medicine 2.0, such as prioritizing sleep, mindful practices, plant-based diet, all of these things that, seem maybe not so impactful, but I'm sure in your community, you're all very well aware how impactful these changes are to your overall health and well-being and not only the physical, but also the mental, emotional, and spiritual.
It's nice to hear you use the phrase health span instead of lifespan. I don't know if a lot of people, pick up on that distinction, but it's not necessarily about how long we're going to live in the lifespan, but more about like the quality of years and the quality of living that we have, i.e. the health span. So that was cool to hear. And then some people listening might be like, wait, I thought she said she moved to Canada and she's talking about waterfalls and all this other. Not that we don't have that here, because obviously Canada is amazing, but where exactly are you now and where's the location you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in Chiapas, Mexico, which most people have heard of Oaxaca. It's the state that borders, or it's the one beside. So it's south of Quintana Roo, where Cancun is. And it does have coast, but it's like very virgin beach. And we're centering our retreats in one of Mexico's what they call Pueblos Mágicos, or it's also a UNESCO heritage site town in the mountains. So there's a very strong indigenous population, absolutely beautiful tapestry. It's actually one of the more cosmopolitan little towns. And it's, Chiapas is the heart of the tropics, Mayan culture, coffee production, cacao production, and of course, like all the incredible fresh produce and tropical fruit that, I have a mango tree that drops mangoes into our pool here in this house. It's a great problem to have.
So lots going on in your industry and in the business that you're in. Maybe a difficult question to answer, but what are some transformations or trends that you've noticed?
Sure. I mean, in wellness in general, or you mean in the medical tourism space?
Feel free to answer both or one or the other.
Sure. Well, one thing that we're really passionate about in the sense that we're filling a gap here a, there's a lot of opportunity to travel, the wellness travel, let's say, industry is exploding. It doesn't necessarily have this blend with the medical side. So there's time to be two dichotomies. You either go full medical, tends to be a lot of, either people that are already quite ill looking for alternative solutions, and also like more aesthetic type surgery things is the majority of the medical wellness tourism. And like the number one top country is Thailand, second is actually Mexico, I think there's really a space here to blend these two. And again, phase one of Altavita is the diagnostics. In a couple of years, we'll probably be, in fact, we're already getting a lot of inbound requests for the surgeries that we all know. On the Canadian side, there's wait lists for certain things that are pretty crazy. And so people are looking for alternatives in certain surgeries, and that's something that we're connecting people to. But the retreats themselves, it's really more about empowering you with information on your personal side. For example, the one, and this gets back to your question about trends, perimenopause and menopause, which is one of the focuses cohort that we are really focusing on in part because it's, yeah, it's really important. I mean, the statistics are insane, and how many women are going to be moving into this transition in the next 10 years is one. Two, just there's so much more information, and women understanding how important it is to have this type of data about themselves, like the current state of their hormones, as a proactive thing instead of waiting till they're experiencing the symptoms. And also just reframing things, what's natural, how can we have like a more empowered narrative about these transitions in our life versus again, sort of the maybe traditional, I don't really like that word, but the way that, let's say, my mom's generation grew up, where or experienced this transition where there wasn't a lot of open communities to talk about their experience. There was kind of like one or two solutions. There wasn't an offer of a diverse set of tools, and certainly the holistic piece was generally missing. So, yeah, that's kind of a roundabout answer, but we're really excited to plant a lot of seeds in these different areas where we see there is a gap.
Yeah, it's great to hear that the transformation, the reason why we say transformations or trends is because a lot of the folks that we speak to, yourself included, it's trends like coming and going, are not as interested in talking about that, but more so transformations. Like what's a trend that's not going away and therefore is not a trend anymore, but a transformation. And it's interesting to hear what you just described in terms of the transformation or trend that you're noticing is one that you're essentially like creating yourself by blending different pieces together. So that's we're all for long-winded roundabout answers. That's what this is all about. Just good conversation. So next one, we've had folks talk about what they're doing from a personal standpoint, from their business, things they've done in the past, or maybe looking to do in the future. But this question is around giving back. Do you have personally or through the business, any sort of programs set in relation to giving back or charitable giving?
Yeah, we're, this business is, you know, we're like 4 months in, but definitely it's on our radar, and our plan is to be able that, really need this sort of information, this sort of transformation, this sort of shift, and they don't necessarily it's not necessarily accessible. So we're excited to offer scholarships in the future. One thing that we've been doing on our, we both do a lot in terms of giving back to our communities and our respective domains. My husband does many, many free surgery campaigns in the more isolated parts of the jungle where it's, he's one of his expertise is diabetic foot, and it's something, if not caught at the right time, can really be tragic for someone in terms of losing a limb. So that's something that he does in his personal domain, and in mine, it's really just giving back to different community organizations that I'm really passionate about. It's usually in the realm of yoga classes, either for the people that are working with these communities that also need, an outlet for emotional and so, mindful support. I also teach mindful practices, breath work, and meditation to communities that, it might not necessarily be something that's accessible all the time. And I feel the more that people have these tools that really, once you know what they are, it's there's no cost to integrating it into your life.
Cool, very cool. We talked about it at the beginning a little bit when you were talking about your series of books that you've authored. So, in terms of any resources that you would recommend specifically for those who are entrepreneurs or business owners, which is the majority of our community, do you have any resources to recommend, again, that are your own or others that have helped you along your journey?
Yeah. Well, my detox book is several years old now. It's still a great resource if you're really looking for like a reset, a reboot. It's a 10-day detox. But I mean, I'm really passionate myself about podcasts. I'm a host of one, but that's kind of my go-to. Although I could, list off many books, it's really hard to just pick a few. But in terms of my um, I'd say mindset optimization over time, and like my sober journey, getting into running. Like Rich Roll is one of my all-time biggest mentors. I had the honor of going to their last retreat. Julie Pyatt, his wife, is also my spiritual mentor. So I'm a huge fan of both of them for different reasons. And I think his podcast is a really great resource to get a sampling of all sorts of sort of uplifting and different viewpoints in terms of mindset and staying motivated and healthy. And I think for entrepreneurs, like that's one thing I really stress is this reframe that investing in your well-being is investing in your business ultimately. Whether you're, the beginning part and like the entire business is you, or you're more of a startup and you have a team and you're scaling, it's still like your energy, your immunity, your ability to focus, and how you're showing up really impacts the entire business, and therefore the impact that you're able to have over time.
Absolutely. Just out of pure selfish curiosity, did Julie and Rich serve Shrimu at the retreat?
Oh my goodness, we were so fortunate. I probably shouldn't say that, but they like, because Italy's very particular, you're not allowed to import cheese, period. So she had worked for many years with the same retreat, and she's taught this group of chefs how to make it. So they made it. Everything was vegan the entire retreat, and it was spectacular.
Yeah,
I'm a
absolutely.
huge fan of her cookbooks as well.
Yeah, that's great. And in terms of are there we always kind of follow up here, like in terms of resources, like are there any, you mentioned podcasts, too many books to mention. Are there anything else like in terms of, I don't know, maybe like apps on your phone that help or documentaries or anything like that?
Sure. one really simple app. It's called, oh my goodness. It sends you little, I want to say it's called Calm, but it can't be called Calm. It sends you little reminders throughout the day, and you can, if you want, I can share it with you later in the show notes. But why I think it's so great is you can program it to exactly how often you want it to be reminded, and they're different phrases. So, observe the lines of your hands or something like that. So every time it's like just a slight mindful second or 10 seconds of your day. And I find it's really grounding for me. In terms of entrepreneurship, I think the books that have been most impactful for me were really, about female empowerment. I'm really passionate about, financial feminism, for example. So Pink Tax by Joanne Rogan. She's a Canadian author. And then the Rachel Rogers, her whole series of books. And she also has a podcast called Hello Seven. And I think those are all great tools for entrepreneurs. She serves men and women and does it from a real no nonsense perspective. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of hers.
And lastly, before we forget, why don't you tell everybody about your podcast and what it's called and all of that?
Sure. So it's called Wellness as a Way of Life for Women Building the Future. I highlight female entrepreneurs, often in the tech startup space, but really just women that really inspire me. And it's kind of a blend of their journey to inspire you in looking at how you're growing your business, and then their experience in scaling or finding funding, and just the ups and downs in entrepreneurship. And then always there's a thread of how are they taking care of themselves, or what's really been integral for them in terms of their well-being over the years. And oftentimes that's a share of a burnout story and how they had to get to a really bad place before they started prioritizing it. But it's, I think, always how we learn best is to hear people's stories.
Oh, that sounds so great. And it's a perfect segue into the next question, which is who or what inspires you?
Mm. I mean, yeah, I mean, my inspiration is really my clients. So women that are fully into building a different version of the future, whatever that means to them. I serve a lot of women in femtech, ed tech, health tech, of course, med tech, and just the reimagining what the future can be. To me, it's so exciting. Serving these women that just have that bigger vision. It's like I'm going to solve this problem, and I'm going to do it in a way that it's going to help not just 100 people, but a million or maybe a billion people. I kind of get really excited about that billion-dollar vision, and then how can I be the cheerleader and ensure that they maintain the vision, they have the mindset, and they are taking care of themselves in a way that they can actually scale. In part because I do believe more capital in the hands of women over time is really going to shift the narrative in how our communities are run and built. And yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Now, big open-ended question here. Do you have any advice, lessons, or tips for other entrepreneurs and business owners?
Yeah, my philosophy is less is more. So I really think it's so important that you find like what are your key non-negotiables. I work with kind of four pillars, if you will, in more recent times with entrepreneurs. So, what are you doing to optimize your sleep? What are you doing to optimize your movement practice? Maybe, the word exercise doesn't speak to you, but I think there's so many things that you can do to stay active and just move more throughout your day that can be really impactful. And from there, some sort of stress management mitigation practice, some mindful practice. Meditation might be something you're into, but there's so many other things that some clients prefer, such as breath work. I love the concept of awe hunting. I don't know if you know what that is, but I'm happy to explain. It's essentially just take, you can pick one thread in nature that you're constantly hunting for, or just some aspect of nature that, gives you that little awe moment. So I love to hunt for rainbows, for example, or, other people like a specific animal or insect they're always on the hunt for, and just sort of bringing those sweet, mindful layers into your life, and it helps you be in the present moment more in the day to day. Ultimately, it's more sustainable and enjoyable, the experience of entrepreneurship, which is kind of like a series of sprints in a marathon and a never-ending marathon. And I'm forgetting. So yeah, like, what I use the word nourishment. I think it's like the most all-encompassing, so that people find, ultimately you have to find really what works for you and what makes you energized, and um, checks all the boxes, and it's also something you really enjoy. Like, I think bringing pleasure back to eating is really important. Sometimes when we live in where we feel really restricted, or we're kind of in like a rule-based mindset instead of, the intuitive part of eating. I love just helping people bring different aspects, flavor profiles and spices, and nuts and seeds and things that they maybe have like forgotten that they used to eat as a kid, or you kind of get in these ruts of buying the same 40 things at the grocery store. So I'm really passionate about helping people layer in healthier things in the nourishment category. Like, I love the goal of trying to eat 40 plants a week, for example.
Yeah, so the advice is for entrepreneurs and business owners, correct me if I misheard, but it's to focus on building those four pillars, which was sleep, movement, mindfulness, and nourishment. And easy, it's what's the saying? It's simple but not easy. And there's a lot
Yes.
of yeah.
Just pull like one or two of those things, into your life, and just kind of trust that the thing that's really helping you feel grounded and focused and energized in a sustainable way. And then part of it is this practice of kind of drowning out the noise, because there's just so much information out there. I think it's powerful over time to just find what's working for you, and also know we're animals, we ebb and flow, there's cycles. So maybe what works for you at this stage of your life might not work for you in another 10 years, or that kind of stuff. And for women on a month to month basis, there's some cycles and things that we can do. I don't know if you like the term biohack, but I mean, I only biohack with food, so it's kind of my
I, for one,
um,
absolutely love the idea of awe hunting. It makes me think of being a kid all over again. So it just makes me happy just thinking about it. So that's a really cool concept. We have a question coming in. It says, at Altavita, do you take clients one to your location or in groups?
So far, we're doing it in groups, but the long-term plan is that we'll just kind of have a revolving door. Sometimes, if you want to come as a family, you want to come. Our second retreat in November is for couples, and we're just kind of doing these cohorts to get the ideas flowing, if you will. But ultimately, we're really hoping that it'll be individuals that want to come. You want to come with a group of friends, you want to come with your whole family. Or yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for solo travel too. It can be really powerful.
Hmm. Wonderful. So, Megan, is there anything that maybe we missed in the conversation? Anything that we did touch on but deserves a little bit more time, or just any announcements or anything like that? Just want to leave the floor open for you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just to reiterate this piece about if you, again, I have the sensation that your community is probably extremely healthy, but maybe somebody in your life, and uh, uh, especially women were often kind of gaslit in the medicine 2.0 system. So you just don't feel, you can't even quite describe like how you're feeling off, but you just know you don't feel as good. And yeah, the power of just having more information, whether it's, running vitamin deficiency, all of these different scans that one can run. And in the US, it's usually a cost. issue in Canada. It's either wait times or there's all these sort of arbitrary rules, for at least in Alberta, you can't get a bone density scan until you're 50 when, it might be very valuable information that you could really change your entire last half of your life if you started lifting weights when you're 40, because you already know that there's, something kind of happening beneath the surface. So I guess because I've been married to a surgeon and I've been surrounded by surgeons in his whole network and doctors, at the same time, really holding like my holistic passion and vision, and I do think that I know that this is the future. If you're not interested in traveling to get these answers, definitely look for a holistic practitioner in your community or a functional medicine doctor, or maybe lean on Chinese medicine, acupuncture, like just draw in some other aspects to get more information about what's going on in your system if you feel like something's off. And then, those of us that are so passionate about health and wellness, sometimes you just want the data anyway. It's not that necessarily anything's feeling wrong. It's just feels really great to have more information.
Absolutely. Um, Everybody listening, you can find out more online, altavitahealth.ca. It's exactly how it sounds, Altavita, altavitahealth.ca. And on Instagram, it's altavita.health. Everybody, thanks for being here with us, listening, taking some of your time to spend with our community. It's been another episode of Veg Networking Canada, where we had an excellent conversation with one of the co-founders of Altavita Medical Wellness Tourism, Megan Swan. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, will catch you soon on another episode. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you.